Alright, our 2025 Forest Grove School District Board of Directors meeting is called to order at 5:42 p.m. We'll start tonight with the roll call of board members present. Alma Lozano. Here. Brisa Franco. Here. Maya Andrade. Here. And Kate Grandeski and Pete Truax are excused tonight and absent, and I am here. If we can all rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All right, so first thing we do is I'm looking for approval of tonight's agenda, which actually does require a motion to approve. I motion to approve. I second. All in favor say aye. 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 All right, and we'll start tonight with a student representative report from Maya Andrade. And Maya, if you would just take a minute too, because this is the first one, right? Welcome, and tell a little bit about yourself. If you don't mind, I'm kind of throwing that out there. It's okay. Okay.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Maya Andrade. I am a senior at the high school. Let's see what else about me. I'm this year's ASB president as well as LIA's president. The sports is completely involved. Okay. For Forest Grove High School, we kicked off the year pretty strong. Sports are in session. We have football, cheer, cross country, and a couple more sports beginning their season. In terms of leadership, we're doing very well as well. ASB has started preparing for homecoming and our September rallies as well as Hispanic Heritage Month. This year we are 117 students strong, and we are more than excited to start off the year and see what the year has in store for us. LA has also just released their theme. This year, their theme, which they work around with, is You Belong. So all of our projects and team events will be based on that theme. The atmosphere is great. Freshman class are fitting in perfectly and comfortably, as they said. This year, I heard we have almost 500 freshmen, so it's a pretty big class, pretty full. But yeah, we're doing great. Of course, it's the first week, so there's not much to report on yet. But can't wait for the rest of September.
All right, thank you. For the fifth one is typically the board report. I think when Kate and Pete are back, I'd like this board to have a discussion about how we want to approach the board report, what we want to share at that time, and if we want to tie some of the things we talk about directly to kind of our purpose and action plan, which we're actually going to talk about later. For tonight, I would like to open it up to other board directors to share anything they have experienced or wanted to share about so far being on the board, and I'm not going to put you on the spot for that, but I will say for one thing that's happened, and Dr. West might talk about this as well, is we were able to meet with Chair Pandoja from FGSD and Senator Solman's chief of staff, Rep. McLean's chief of staff, and I were able to meet because we're trying to rethink how we have conversations with our legislators. In the past, Rep. McLean would reach out and come and visit individually and have conversations, and then we do that with Senator Solman, and then they would do the same thing with Hillsborough and different districts. And we've really been trying to rethink those conversations so that we can work together and maximize kind of the information we're sharing, and also align some of the things that our legislators are seeing across the districts. So we were able to meet. Our first initial meeting was to talk about what that looks like. And Dr. West probably has additional thoughts about where they're taking that. But I'm really excited about maybe shifting how we think about doing that. I do also want to let the board know I did submit my resignation for the OSBA. It was accepted and it will be final on September 30th. That's a really tough decision for me because I have been so deeply involved with my work there at the state. But I think one of the reasons that I decided to do that is because we have been really building out locally what our advocacy is looking like and really spending much more time building what that looks like. And so I wanted my focus to remain local and my energy to be there first. And I think what we're doing here in this district and our neighboring districts is becoming a model for boards across the state about how to rethink how we work. So it will open up an opportunity for appointment. And I would, again, I'll talk to people on this board about what that involved. I talked with Pete about it already. They will be able to appoint a person that represents this district. We still have 2 local representatives for our Washington County area, but we have a really strong contingent in Washington County that's kind of planning for our big January legislative dinner. So anything would you like to add? Is anything coming to mind? I want to give some opportunity. Oh, I was able to visit a couple schools very briefly with David Warner and Dr. West. I was able to go to Witch Hazel and then to Oak Grove, and Henry was with me, but it was a short visit, but quick walkthroughs. And I actually commented to Dr. West, I was really, Witch Hazel. Did I say Witch Hazel?
Yeah.
I said Witch Hazel. I mean Harvey Clark. I don't know how that, oh my gosh. See, this is gonna make you guys feel better up here. Harvey Clark, and I was really surprised because at the first of the school, you anticipate a lot of energy, but what I was really excited to see is every single room we walked by, and this was the first week of school, where students were 100% engaged in the classroom, learning, working, and it was the vibe in the school was one of kind of intent, but also organization and focus. And that was the same even over at Oak Grove, and they were having to go to a different gym, but everybody, you felt like people knew what they were supposed to be doing and using every day with purpose. So that was really great to see. And thank you to the directors for also allowing the board to jump in and participate in some of those visits.
Yeah, I guess just to piggyback on that as well. Is it not on?
What's on? Yeah.
It's on.
Good.
I also did some walks at the school with David Warner and Dr. West. And it was great. It was really fun too. I did the high school and I also did the elementary school village. It was really interesting to see obviously that dynamic between the little ones and the older crowd. But like you shared, we did see the same thing. We saw students engage, teachers. I mean, for being such, 2 days, first and second day, they were very much paying attention, doing what they were supposed to, listening, and it was beautiful to be out there, to have that chance.
I'm hopeful there'll be more opportunities in the future. I unfortunately was not able to make an appearance, but I am happy to hear that students are engaged. And I'm excited for what we're going to do this year. And I'm excited to talk about our very last portion of the agenda.
All right. So we're going to move on to the superintendent report with Dr. West.
Great, thank you. Speaking directly to what Chair Kaki referenced about our efforts for legislative advocacy that aligns with our neighboring districts. Right now, we're in the very early stages of conversation, so I don't have much to report. I will forecast that we will set up a date where we will have our elected officials in district visiting a couple of our schools, and we'll certainly let the board know when that is. We're excited about that opportunity. We love to show off our schools. As important, we love to help our legislators understand education and how they can support us in our work. So more to come there. A couple of other things. We do have a lot going on with athletics, as our student advisor shared, so I won't cover that same information. A few other things. Tomorrow night, we have our first bond oversight committee meeting for the school year. That is at Echo Shaw at 5:30 p.m. We also have this weekend the Mariachi Tradicion. They were playing at Portland Center Stage from 7 to 9 on the 13th. That is Saturday. They are part of a story being told, the immigrant story. So those of you that are looking for something to do on Saturday night, that should be a good time. On the 16th of September, so this is next week, NAMS and Forest Grove High School both have their back to school nights. For the parents that are watching, if you're unaware of that, that is something that you should attend. And then on the 18th of September, Cornelius and Echo Shaw have their back to school nights as well. And then the following week, the 22nd through the 26th, Harvey Clark is going to have a book fair. So if you're interested in supporting Harvey Clark, stop by. There'll be books to purchase. In terms of the opening of the school district, a few things that I want to highlight. Maybe one of the most exciting things is that we opened a new school. We opened Cornelius Elementary School, and It is fantastic. Hopefully those of you here had an opportunity to stop by and see what the school looks like. As we went through this process of completing construction and preparing to open the doors, being still new to the district, there were some things that I learned that I want to share. Because I think this is pretty incredible that there has been a school on that site supporting the city of Cornelius and the students of Cornelius unbroken for 175 years. That's remarkable. Now, it started as a single schoolhouse room, and that's all that students attended, and it was just a couple of students, but look at how it's grown. Cornelius is one of our largest elementary schools, and they provide a tremendous service to the youth in that community. It is 100% dual language school, so all of the students that attend that school are learning in 2 languages. It is a majority Latino school, and we are proud of that. We're proud of that diversity. So it was a really remarkable effort that was undertaken. I want to thank Principal Angela Graves for shepherding that with her staff through this whole process and for a good close last year and an excellent opening this year. And we also have Director Eileen Kloop here, who is really instrumental in all of the bond work, but especially her work with Cornerstone and Pence Construction to make sure that everything went smoothly there. So thank you, Director Kloop. Lastly, for those who are watching and for the people sitting here today, those of you who are residents of our school district, thank you for voting for the bond. You can see firsthand, if you had a chance to attend the grand opening, what an incredible opportunity it is for the students that will be attending there for years to come, and what an incredible benefit for the community to be able to enjoy that space. So thank you for that. As was already alluded to, spent almost all of last week in schools, and it's tremendous to have youth in our classrooms again. A school is not complete without young people, so really excited to have our students back. Lots of energy in those spaces, lots of learning started right away. I think what really struck me is listening to the educators in all of our different schools. What I heard very consistently is how our educators feel like generally students settled more quickly. And I heard several educators say this feels more normal than it has been for years. For those of us that experienced the pandemic, we know what that period afterwards was like. And it suggests that we may be returning to more of the type of school opening and school behaviors that are more typical than what we would expect. So that was exciting to hear. Also want to acknowledge for our neighbors, for our staff. We are still finishing up some bond projects across the district, and there is still construction dust out and about. But we are rapidly working through that. So thank you for your patience with that. And then lastly, as we look at the school year that's in front of us, I'm excited to share that we have work is going to focus us on some common strategies anchored in 4 domains. Environment and culture, intentional lesson planning, teaching and delivery, and then that process of assessment, reflection, and adjusting. And as I said, the journey of the graduate attributes in this instructional framework are intentionally woven together to strengthen what instruction looks like in our classroom. So I'm really excited about what that's going to do for us for the coming years, and we'll continue to bring information about those 2 different frameworks into the boardroom as we share our progress throughout the school year. And that's it for me.
All right, I don't believe we have an unscheduled public appearance. We do not, and so we're gonna move on to the consent agenda. Oh my gosh. We do have the Education Association. Please come up. Do you want to come up to the mic and then people
I
can?
can just speak here.
I think you have to see a big, yeah.
I should introduce myself. So my name is Diana Smith and I'm with FGSD. And so the first thing we'd like to do is welcome our new board members. Thank you for taking this position, volunteering to serve our school district. And then the second part of our message is by an overwhelming majority and with an outstanding number of members, we, FGEA members, have voted to ratify our contract with the Forest Grove School District.
Thank you.
All right, I asked Diana before we tweet, do you have something to say? She said yes, and then I just went right by her on the agenda. So I apologize again. Especially because that is a really significant announcement. This was my first time participating in the bargaining session from the district side, and I learned so much, but it was such a positive experience, even through some tension, but even like the kind of healthy tension that you want. And it really reinforced when I started on the board, the union reached out immediately and they kept saying, this is a special relationship, this is a special district, we do a great job partnering. But you really did see that in the bargaining sessions. And I know those were streamed live, but most people probably aren't watching the 8-hour bargaining. But compliments to union leadership, who I think also just did a really good job of coming to the table in partnership. And it's nice to be a part of something like that, especially in these times. So we really appreciate that. Thank you for the report. We definitely do still not have unscheduled public appearance. So we now will move to the consent agenda for real. It is made up of routine, non-controversial items to be voted on under one motion. Are there any items within the consent agenda a board member or the superintendent wishes to discuss separately? Seeing none, I will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
A second. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes, and we're going to move on to action items. Our first, we welcome Assistant Superintendent Director, Teaching and Learning, Arturo Lomeli.
Good evening. Okay, mic works just fine. I am here to bring forth the approval for consideration of Odyssey-ware software for Forest Grove High School, Tuolumne Plains High School, Neil Armstrong's Middle School, and Oak Grove Academy. Odyssey-ware is a software that we use to support recovered credit that needs to happen outside of the classroom, and on occasion, original credit, mostly for some health classes that students may not be able to access because of a variety of other challenges they have in their schedule. But mostly it's for recovered credit. We also use it during the summer. Whenever we have a price tag that's over $50,000, we bring it to the board. And so this is something we've used over the years. Our teachers have developed proficiency standards to go along with many of the Odyssey-ware software, so it's not just computer-based when possible. And so we're bringing that to you today for consideration for approval. We can move forward with the school year.
Any questions? All right, motion to approve the Odyssey-ware software subscription purchase up to $67,500 the academic school year.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. Item number 2 is, welcome. Arturo, go ahead.
No, thank you. Sorry to cut you off there. Bringing forward Adelante Mujeres, a contract for this year. We have a wonderful partnership with Adelante. They provide summer services for us, but during the school year, they provide an after-school program called Chicas, the Chica Youth Development Program at our 6 Title I elementary schools, as well as Neil Armstrong Middle School and Forest Grove High School. And so we're bringing that forward. We'd like to continue that partnership, and it is $70,000 to continue to have that running for this school year.
Questions?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Is this open to everyone in school, or is it just?
It's open to our Latina students, up to about 25 students per school. And they meet 60 to 90 minutes a week, and they also perform a variety of community service. They have weekly programming as well as community service opportunities, enrichment opportunities. There's a curriculum that they've developed over the years with a little bit of a STEM focus. in supporting our Latinos.
And to add to that, I meet with adults and parents every year, multiple times per year, and they've never turned away a student. So regardless of race or ethnicity, they have welcomed students into the program. The majority of students that access the program are Latina, excuse me. But because, we have a number of students, especially at Cornelius Elementary School and Echo Shaw, who are not Latina, but they are learning in Spanish, they will often access this program alongside other students.
Thank you. Kind of bouncing off of that, it says here, so, my office. It says 20 to 25 students at each school. Is there, like, what's to have, like, how is the process choosing or like selecting, is it an application process? And if so, have we ever reached the max and needed to turn away students?
I'm unaware of students ever being turned away. The application process typically begins in kindergarten. What's really unique about the Chicas program is once the students are in the program, Adelante Harris and their staff work with those students as they matriculate all the way up to 12th grade. So it is typically the same students that for all 13 years participate in the program as they move through our different school systems and different levels. There are students that occasionally join later than kindergarten, but kindergarten, first grade is about when they build up that cohort of about 25 students. It is capped at about 25 students because there's a limit to what they can support well with the resources that the district provides for them. Any other questions?
Motion to approve the, I'm so sorry, the Adelante Mujeres contract in the amount of $70,000.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you.
you.
And item number 3, special school contracted services with Dr. Kim Shear, Director of Student Services.
Hi, Student Services requesting from the board to approve contracted services for special school placement at Serendipity Center for up to $117,747.60. For this school year. This is actually continuation for a contract that was approved by the last board in December for the same student. And this is a continuation for this school year. This is to meet the individual education needs as identified on the student site.
Questions? I have one. Sorry, the agenda item said that the agency was selected due to the unavailability of the current local service plan. So did we have a previous service plan that we went with?
So our local ESD does have special school placements, and students have to meet certain criteria. So sometimes our students don't meet that criteria and we have to seek out additional placements. So that's what happened in this circumstance.
I understand. Okay, thank you. Over for the motion. Motion to approve the contracted services for special school placement at Serendipity Center in the amount of $100,737.60 for August 28th through June 30th. Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All right. Good, thank you. And we're gonna move on to first read policy updates with Dr. West.
Yes, it is our practice to bring policies to the school board for approval. Before the policies are brought to the school board for approval, we do meet with 2 board members in what we refer to as policy committee. Thank you for participating in that, Director Frankel. So those 2 board members have an opportunity to review the policy revisions, ask questions, make recommendations. And we do that to go through a vetting process before we bring the policies forward for a first read. So they are in the board packet as a first read, which means that you have an opportunity now to review those policy revisions before we come back for the September 23rd board meeting. 23rd, is that correct? September 23rd board meeting. at which time, we will ask for your approval through the consent agenda so that we may put those new policy revisions in place. What questions may I answer? Or would you like to add anything about your experience since you've gone through it once now?
No, I mean, they were pretty straightforward. A lot of it was just updating terminology and then deleting a lot of what was recommended to delete. I found them pretty straightforward.
And then our last item tonight is we're gonna spend a few minutes and talk about the school board purpose statement. School board has developed a purpose statement to clarify its role in creating the conditions and providing oversight for the successful implementation of the district's strategic plan. The statement outlines the board's responsibility to monitor academic growth, align the budget to district priorities, ensure fiscal accountability and transparency, support the superintendent's goals, and conduct a rigorous superintendent evaluation. In addition, the board commits to advocating for students and families at all levels and engaging authentically with the community to advance the strategic plan and improve student experiences. The board is to review the purpose statement and discuss board commitments for future action and adoption on September 23rd, 2025. None of that sounds like me, but that's important to read because that is a nice overview. I do want to say before we start this discussion and our board members here, and actually Kate and Pete also weighed in a little bit early, and Maya all know tonight that we're going to ask for some feedback. I think one of the things we talked about at the retreat, and really appreciate all of the directors who attended and participated in that conversation, and at least viewing some of that conversation, is trying to really flip the script on what it means for a board to be effective and also what is the role of a board. And I think we had some really good questions from especially our new board members and comment from our new student rep about what are we doing up here and how do we do this work that supports what our district is trying to do, as opposed to what you see in some school boards across the nation, really, where there's kind of this tension and this battle of school boards coming in and every person has their own idea of what should be happening. And then, you know, the schools are actually running separately and we're all trying to do that. We really want to think about maybe the role of a board that's effective in, of course, the hiring of a superintendent, overseeing of the policy work, but just what can we as a board do to support the work that's ongoing? And I think that's where our conversation started. So we did talk about we don't really need school board goals, because we really want the school board, or we hope the school board to be supporting the goals of the district, which are really aligned with the strategic plan, which really came from the community. So it's kind of a whole different way of thinking about it. And I don't know, is it possible to put that with the statement on the screen up there? We have it in front of us. I mean, believe me, nobody wants us. Yeah. It's the very last page of the packet.
I can.
Oh yeah, there we go. So where we landed at the end of the retreat after that discussion was to kind of think about maybe a purpose statement instead of our school board goals that we write every year. We also talked about the fact that those goals that we put out, we were really actively monitoring ourselves and evaluating ourselves on how we achieved or didn't achieve those goals. And we really, I don't think, talked specifically about what it looks like to achieve those goals at all. So we're trying to start again from a purpose statement for any school board. And we talk a lot about, if none of us are up here, are we creating a system for this district that's sustainable and that any school board member could participate in and could be supportive of the district? The two commitments we landed on, and that's what I'm going to ask for feedback today. As part of our dedication to students and families of Forest Grove School District, we as a board also commit to advocate at the local, state, and national levels on behalf of Forest Grove students and families, and listen intently and engage with the community to support the strategic plan and improve the experiences of students and families within Forest Grove School District. My question to this board, as we kind of build out, is this something that we even feel like captures what we were trying to talk about at the retreat? And if so, what are the ideas that this board, and I'm also going to ask Dr. West, how do we know that we're doing those things well? So by June, if we were to look back, would we be able to say that we were successful at those 2 bullet points at the bottom? And are those even the right 2 bullet points? And that's a lot, but I know I did sort of prep them to know that this is coming, but I do want to open it up for some thoughts, and then I'll share. Pete also shared a couple pieces of feedback, and they were brief, so maybe I'll mention first. He did say the bullet up above supporting the superintendent's goals. He liked the idea of changing that to the district goals or our strategic plan goals. And so it's not focused on just one person's goals. I thought that was a good piece of feedback. And he also said for the action plan for advocacy, he would like us to think outside of the district boundaries, the school district boundaries, within the city and even the county, of where as a school board we could advocate for other policy, whether it's Parks and Rec with the city, whether it's funding that the county is giving, where does our role fall with those types of things? So those were his 2 pieces that he wanted to just put out for tonight's consideration. And I said, we'll just hear from everybody and then we'll kind of synthesize after the meeting and maybe come back with a summary of what everybody's ideas were.
I like what has been put down in the last 2 bullet points. I think I especially like the engaging the community to support the strategic plan, but also improve the experiences of students and families. I would say like maybe it should go first, only because I think it's important to build a relationship, and if we don't have a good relationship with our community and with our students, we wouldn't be able to achieve or work towards achieving those local, state, national levels of the school district. That's just my thought.
And Brisa, what kinds of things would you think a board would do to show that we are engaging and we are improving experience? Like as a board, do you envision what that could look like?
I think a lot of it is just communication, like not only here at these meetings, but also sending out, like, things are happening in the world, things are changing a lot, and that can cause a lot of fear. And I think it's important to remain communicative with students and with families, not only through newsletters that are sent out, but also maybe like at the assemblies or meetings or parent-teacher conferences, like being engaged in those kinds of events as well. So either we as board members are able to be there or just have more of an interaction with individuals. So if they know who we are, they can reach out to us and become more approachable so that they feel comfortable to come up to us. Whatever it is that they need to come up to us for.
What has been done previously to track these or to follow up and us if you're doing them or not?
Well, for these specific goals, nothing. This is a new way of framing the work of the school board. What I witnessed last year is that the goal setting process, we narrowed the number of goals that the board wanted to focus on. And there was not a great deal of follow-up past that to ask ourselves, are we doing what we said we would do? And to use a term we use in education, have we met our success criteria and how do we know? So there wasn't much done. Whatever this looks like in terms of how we hold ourselves accountable to these commitments. I think we're gonna be making that up as we go. And we need to be thoughtful and intentional about holding ourselves to whatever we agree to.
So we are looking for us to hold ourselves accountable. Are we bringing this out to the community as well and asking? Or is this just for us? I guess.
We could, and that could be part of holding ourselves accountable.
Okay.
And I think that is part of what Chair Kotke is trying to determine tonight is, if we were to say, we will know we are successful when, what follows that? When the community tells us that we're meeting these commitments, when we have data that shows we've engaged in so many different events, that has to be defined. Am I capturing it correctly?
Yeah, I think that's the big $1 million question is some of it, as you go through the year, opportunities arise where we do go in, we are finding ourselves advocating sort of reactively. Not, I would say not, I think we've been pretty proactive, but generally, I think how boards operate across the state is reacting. A policy change happens and now we change a policy. Parents bring us something and then we elevate it. And some of that is natural. That's the communication flow that happens in a good functioning system where you're sharing information, to your point, Brisa. You're able to get people to the right place and then we're able to find solutions. The board's role in all of that is really not any of those pieces, but I think it is, people do see the board as a place where this is where we need to go to accomplish things. So as that happens, those advocacy pieces, we felt like, oh, this is great. We're jumping into these available town halls, but we weren't, we weren't intentional with it. We're going to these town halls and these are the pieces that we'd like to share. And I think that's what we're getting at with reworking this Rep. McLean and Senator Solomon meeting is we don't want people just coming to the district and then we're showing some things and they can say they've been in schools. We want them coming to the district with an intent of what we need them to see so that when they write policy, it's what we need. And they also can see that this policy they were writing has no need. So proactively getting in front of that to help everybody work better, I think is what could happen. I don't know the answer to engaging with the community and engagement and what that looks like. Because I've talked to new board members coming on about the experience of not being on a board and being a parent or student. And you talked about it, Alma. Where did you talk about it? Where you were like, you don't, oh, your family members were asking you, what do you even do on the board? And I don't know that boards are very confident in saying what it is they are doing. And I think part of that's because, frankly, people get onto a board with their own idea of what it should be. So I do feel like this whole way we're going to flip it might in and of itself drive us to have to say how will we know in June if we, not how will we know, but what should we do between now and June? It's almost like, what is our plan for engagement? If we want to be at events and we want to be in schools, now how do we operationalize that as a board? Are we making sure we're seeing all the events? And then the why, to your point, Dr. West, like if we do those things, is that what community members would feel they're needing? And we do hear from community members, like, we need you to feel like you understand what's going on. And yet we're in a position where we're not supposed to really be in the weeds. So it's all this fun stuff finally coming up to a conversation, which I think is important, but we're not going to answer those things tonight, but we're getting to the meat of it, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely. I think these are important questions to answer. What I'm curious about from our student perspective, if you don't mind continuing to the conversation, what do you want from your school board?
Well, I guess I'll talk about kind of what I had in mind with, what Steve was telling us about. I really agree with Lisa when she said that the second bullet point should be the first one. Before we, advocate of in our national level, we should really, we need to advocate with our community, in firsthand. And I kind of said that as well, how we should focus on the community first, because that's really where it all starts. And whole engagement part, like you said, like we can stay at schools or we can visit schools and go to all those events, but really, I think what people need to see or to hear from their school board to know that we're successful is kind of knowing that we do take the criticism, we do take, and acknowledge, what needs to be done, kind of work, actively alongside with our district plan. But to meet those requirements and those things that need to be changed, I think that's when we start realizing that, it has worked out, we are working, and our school board, the school board is, continuing to move along with what we need to do. I guess in my own point of view, like what I would want to see from our school board is really like engagement. I guess it's kind of hard to explain how, right? But I think a lot of times, especially before I was here, like I've only hear about the school board in conversations like this, but I wasn't sure what we did, what we stood for, what we represented. I kind of just knew like, oh, well, they come in and we talk about important things, but it's that like seeing, right, seeing you in the community and how you can emphasize with a lot of like students and parents and family, I think foremost and beforehand, that shows where you are as a person as well. And as a school board, that you're willing to just be a community within, and kind of stand with people. It's just kind of hard to say, or I guess explain what that looks like. It's a big time frame. I hope I answered that right.
Well, and from the student perspective, it's from leadership, you guys must have similar conversations about how like ASB and LIA reach and communicate with your whole school community, right? What does that look like? Like, how do you know when you guys are doing that engagement? You're getting people to join,
I think we measure things like that, for, at least for ASB and LIA, it's just through, again, like how many people we have participating, how many people we have talking about us, and not only us, but what we do and what we have done, in the school year. That's how we measure our success. So I know one of those mentions for sure, when we hear people, talking about new traditions we're starting or, just new plans we have in general, and hearing our students, being hyped about it and wanting to join in and helping out and asking when our next event is, that to us is what measures success. A lot of our events, seeing you guys already, seeing more people show up, we're going from 30 people to 200 people at our Dia de los Niños. That's how we measure our success as well. It's a bit harder to do that community wise because I guess I know it's kind of hard to hear what people say at the same time, but that's how we measure it on school level, just hearing how far, we've gotten through the community in the school. Also just kind of, what you even have to say all the time. I think that's where we measure success as well. If students are happy with what we're doing and they think we're on the right track, we know that we're not doing just enough for our group, but we're doing enough for who we're representing and who we're doing everything for as well. And then in terms of ASB, I think I guess ASB can kind of just measure success through, yeah, I mean, how many students participate, how many students are willing to come to school and say that we have a great student body that's ready to represent all of us, and just being comfortable with letting us lead and knowing that students think that they're in good hands or know that they're in good hands. That's how we measure our success.
If I may, I think I can pull a few things out of what Maya shared and what I heard here for some discussion. One of the things that you said that really struck me is this idea of standing with us. So it sounds to me like one aspect of engagement is that the board has a deep enough understanding of our student body that you feel like not just that they support the schools, but that they support students. And they will stand with students if that's necessary and represent students in the community. I think I heard that's what you were implying. Is that correct? One aspect.
So yeah, that's exactly kind of what I was going for, because it's one thing to say that you stand with the school, but to say that you stand with the students is on a whole different level of like understanding what we need as students, not just as a school as a whole. I think there's a lot of perspectives within the school. So knowing that you understand what we want as students and not just as a whole is really important to me. And I think, that's ultimately the goal. Thank you for that. I get really nervous with sometimes like this corner event.
You did great, you did great, and really appreciate you sharing all those perspectives, because I think you also shared some ideas for measurement that we may be able to come back to. The other thing that I heard around this idea of what does it look like for engagement, there's a couple of different ways we can maybe define that. One way that I think was touched on is being in spaces where our families are and listening to them, being available to hear their stories. And to be able to do something with that. Sometimes we will hear people say, I've had a bad experience. And there are appropriate ways to address that. And oftentimes, at least in my experience in this district, a lot of families tell me how wonderful their experience has been and how much their kids enjoy going to school. And that's part of knowing if we're being effective with these things as well. The other aspect of engagement, I think I heard, is telling our story. So being able to communicate, whether it be to elected officials or to the community. These are the things that are going on in our school. This is what we need you to know about what's going on in our school district. And these are the ways that you can support us in the school district and spread the message about how amazing it is. So I heard several touches on definitions that we might be able to anchor to in terms of what it means to engage. And then maybe we could come back to what Maya shared in terms of, well, how do we know if we're successful at that? Bob, any comments?
No, I think I support and I agree on that. Just as a parent myself and having a child in the school district myself, when it comes to, you know, just understanding, just going down to the basics, understanding what a school board is, what that ladder looks like. I don't think a lot of parents understand that quite well, and they always tend to hop on the highest, even though there is, you know, a ladder to go through or clients. So I think just the very basics, understanding. A lot of our parents don't understand what a school board do. They don't. While I was in the process of, you know, getting on the ballot and, you know, all that stuff, having conversations with my neighbors, with parents, with even the students, you know, my daughter's friends. No idea what school board is. So it's those basic stuff that are important that we not only share with our community, but our students as well. I think it's really important. So getting down to the basics. And everything else, I'm sure we could figure out. I don't think that would be a problem. It's just a matter of what do we do to engage and all that. Our biggest community, or a lot of our parents also speak Spanish. You know, how do we help them understand what this is and how we are here to support students and the community.
I think expanding upon just the conversation you've been having about engagement, I really liked the farmers market, kind of being there and being accessible, meeting the community where they're at. And I'm trying to think of how we can expand that into the rest of the don't have a farmer's market. I really don't know like where would that be a good fit, but that's something I'd like to explore and see if we can reach more of the community where they are outside of the farmers markets, and the farmers market is coming to an end as the people. I also really liked what Chair Kotke said about being proactive. I think that's very important. Kind of tying that into measuring our success and whether or not we've advocated at the local and state national levels, and whether or not we've listened with intention and engaged with the community to support our community and students. I think it's important to not only like evaluate ourselves at the end of June, but also have a midpoint in the school year to check in to see if whether or not we've made any progress and whether or not we need to reevaluate what we've set and what our goals are. I don't know what our midpoint would be in our academic school year, but I thought that was something that would need to be implemented to just kind of make sure that the whole year doesn't go by and we are having to like look back and think of all the different things that we did or haven't done. Oh, and then I had a question on, you brought up about like how you measure success and how you guys receive feedback on the school level. How do we currently have the process on how we receive feedback from our community or from parents? Like, is that at the school level? Like, is that per school or per grade, or is like there a way, or should there be a way for them to communicate with us like a board? Like, I'm not quite sure where role is in that.
It's both and.
Okay.
Several schools do their own parent surveys and do so multiple times a year. Those surveys tend to be very localized to the context and things that are taking place specific at that school. And then we also, as a district, will query families. Surveys are helpful, but they don't tell the full story either. So as we think about how do we know if we've been successful and we're doing the things that we say we're going to do? I recommend to the board to consider a measurement other than a survey, maybe a couple of different measures that we might look at. And those measures can be quantitative, like a survey, where people click 1, 2, 3, 4 and you get some measurements back from that. But it could also be qualitative, where it is more about the storytelling of feelings that people have, because there's something to that as well, to measure the success of a school system.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to write everything down. Oh, and then again, tying it back to engagement. Do you think students at all would be interested in coming to these in person?
I was talking about that too. I think students also like, we think that, display is almost like, not really clear, but it's just, it is something you thinking. You think that's more of the other thing, right? But, it's like you said, there's a letter, and a lot of students think that like the school board is like the very top of that, like unreachable almost. And so most of the time when you hear these things, it's kind of like, well, us students really don't have anything to do with school board, you know what I mean? And obviously that's not true, because that's the exact reason that we're here, right, to help out students in our community. But it has never been a talk at school like, hey, you can show up to this, you can be a part of this. And quite honestly, this was just brought to me last year, right before election. So I'm sure the students that really are engaged and want to teach the community would love to show up here. It's just, it's not ever presented as an opportunity to a bunch of us. So that's where the line kind of like.
Well, I think that would be great. I don't, like, you can talk to the students who are around and see if have any ideas that you think would make it a little less intimidating, but I totally get it. And then we as a board can figure out how we can make it accessible and create a welcoming environment for those students to feel comfortable to come to these events.
Yeah, and we have, the NPM group, the Leaders Youth Advisory Council, all the students are really excited and really want an opportunity to work alongside with their community, just like they work with, Mayor Wenzel. So students are there, it's just like getting rid of that superstition, right, or that, I guess, negative idea that we're in.
I think there might be a way to blend the three of these ideas, like you're talking about parents not really, knowing what we're doing and
not engaging because of
and
that.
not engaging. And I'm thinking about the cell phone policy last year when Paula brought that comment from the student body about, and now that's an easy one because we all are aware of what cell phone policy is, but
Students
Yeah.
protesting.
the example though of like, Teresa, your point of when there is something on our agenda, we will admit that some of our agenda to a student would be kind of a snoozer, as it is even for me as a chair at times, and no offense to anyone, but I think there are elements of a school board agenda or a conversation where we could proactively say, hey, we would like students to come to this so that we can get some feedback on the discussion that we have and what are your thoughts? I mean, I think there's ways to build that communication and even helping parents understand policy work. I mean, we do the policy work and it gets posted on the site, but nobody is going to the school board site and looking at policy until they need to look at the policy. And that's just the nature of everything. But I think there's maybe a way to teach all of us process and in that process, we are engaged in a way that's meaningful and maybe helps us all kind of get to a more cohesive endpoint. But I think, I don't know, if there were students that were interested in a certain topic that we're covering and you were sharing that, and I don't know, I mean, those are just.
Would there be a way of bringing that up at back, is it back to school night, is that what that's called? Like, if both parents and students that go to that, I'm not quite sure what the schedule looks like for a back to school night, but I think that would be a great way of meeting, like meeting families and meeting students and introducing ourselves as board members and kind of introducing what our role is and inviting them to our next board meeting.
Kate and I had a table it might have been we did a table at the high school for one of the back to schools. And that's when all the trees disappeared, all the swag that we had, but a lot of parents came over to that table and asked. We had multiple parents that said they had considered running for school board. And we had parents come over and ask questions about the school district. And also, speaking of the market, Arturo was there and the Laura's and David. I mean, there were so many people that asked all kinds of questions about the school district and some about the city because we just happened to be there. And so I do think there's opportunity with this idea of being somewhere just to be, potentially with intention at times, but maybe first, like you said, building relationship, having people feel like it's approachable and I don't know. So, I mean, these are all.
Yeah, and once we land on a strategy, we can certainly plug you into the different events. If the board is considering engaging directly with students, that we could organize a work session for that. Or we could bring you into the high school for those opportunities. That's something that I did several times last year to visit directly with students and superpower. I learned so much. I strongly advise that if the board wants to hear directly from students, that we organize something like that, because students will tell you they didn't hold back.
Okay, any other thoughts for now? It feels like we've sort of. I'm feeling like there might be consensus to think about the commitments and reorder. With the idea of maybe focusing more heavily on making sure we are engaging first and building that relationship. And then as we build that out, that helps us be better advocates locally and. I don't know, next steps maybe we need to hear from Kate. She's gonna share information with me separately and maybe just we'll synthesize this conversation and in leadership and then maybe put out some next steps for consideration for the board.
We can put out a revised draft based on what we've heard. I've taken some notes here. And then some potential next steps. We have tentatively a proposal to adopt on the 23rd of September, but if more time is needed for discussion, the timeline is our own, so we can certainly push that back.
How are we feeling that this is something we can move forward with consensus with a few line changes? And the action plan piece would be something we'll work on beyond the 23rd. I still comfortable in a couple of weeks with what's here?
With the revisions.
With the revisions.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, I think that, I feel like we can move to action on this.
So we can bring this back on the 23rd with revisions discussed, pending comments from Director Grandusky. And then build an action plan. That's super. Thank you.
And I think there being no further business, we're gonna adjourn. Am I right? I have to double check myself every time. We are adjourned at 6:41. Thank you, everybody.